everybody, happy March. We're back with our fourth office hours for Washington Green Schools. And just to recap, I'm Lee and I'm the outreach coordinator here.
And I'm Nairi, I'm the program manager.
So just to fill you in on what office hours are, if you've never watched before, every month we tackle kind of the most asked topic that we get from school communities around the state. And this month, in honor of the end of the school year approaching faster than I think we'd like it to, we're focusing on ideas for a lasting change. So we have 6 environmental categories: school grounds and gardens, water, transportation, waste and recycling, healthy school buildings, and energy. And each of those come with what we call a lasting change. And that's really just the action project that you implement on campus to make your school more environmentally sustainable in that category. We specifically set up the certification process to be really flexible and dynamic so that you can choose a project that makes the most sense for your school. But often it's helpful to have some inspiration from what other schools have done to successfully certify. So today we're just going to run through a few examples from each environmental category. And as always, if you have any questions or want more specific examples, you can always get in touch with either of us and we'll give you some more inspiration.
Absolutely. So we'll get started with school grounds and gardens. It's one of our most popular certification categories. And we have an example from Forest View Elementary up in Everett, Washington. Now they wanted to create an outdoor classroom to have a space that was an extension of their school building. So what they did is they not only built an outdoor classroom, but then they created these hand-painted kiosks that highlighted the different local flora and fauna of the local habitat. In addition to that, they wanted to tie in technology to this outdoor space, so they put a QR code on each of these hand-painted kiosks so that if you scan them with a smartphone, you'd be able to get more information about the local habitat. And in addition, the 5th graders of this school put together a mentoring program, so with kindergartners, they were able to connect with them and share with them the different type of animals and plants that they could find in the space. In addition, Image Elementary, which is down in Vancouver, Washington, they also had a buddy system. So 4th and 5th graders worked together with younger students, and they created a booklet that highlighted the different types of animals and plants in the local school area, and then they read that to the younger audiences so that they could have students growing up through the grades aware of the Green Team and kind of priming them so in the future they could potentially be members of the Green Team as well. And then lastly, Tukes Valley Middle School, which is in Battleground, they developed a really interesting interpretive trail that connected their school to a local waterway. And what's really incredible about this school is that they connected with community members to make this happen. So the students decided a plan for this trail, and they got district approval for it. They also connected with the Clark County Conservation District, and together with other members of the community, they were able to plant over 400 different types of plants and trees and really create a unique wetland-like trail. At the end, the Green Team students and parents also created signs and benches and birdhouses so that it could attract local flora and fauna as well.
Love school grounds and gardens. So the next one that we're going to talk about is water. Again, there are a ton of different ways that you can certify in this category, from doing leak patrols on campus to creating a bioswale to capture pollution from the parking lot. And we're just going to highlight a couple of really innovative examples, starting with Lakeland Hills Elementary in Auburn. The students wanted to learn about the impact that stormwater runoff has on the Puget Sound, so they did a ton of research and then afterwards wanted to do their own part to prevent pollution in their community. So the kids went out and found storm drains on roads and sidewalks in their town, and they stenciled a sign that says, "No dumping, drain leads to river," near any of these drains in their community. They also did a little educational campaign on campus to teach students and teachers about where their runoff goes and what impact it has on the plants and animals that live in the Puget Sound. Then there's Silverwood School in Poulsbo. They were concerned about the water quality they found when they tested the groundwater around their campus. So they created a rain garden to absorb runoff from the impervious surfaces, their parking lots, sidewalks. And they also kicked off a reusable water bottle campaign on campus to stop waste from single-use bottles. which were contributing to a huge amount of the recyclables and garbage on campus. And then finally, there's Hawkinson Middle School in Brush Prairie. They wanted to learn more about their relationship with drinking water. They realized that they really didn't think twice, when they poured a big glass of water at school or went to the drinking fountain. So they decided to test the school's water and take their findings to the school board, the principal, and the superintendent with suggestions on how they could make their water quality even better moving forward. It also was a good way for them to evaluate their resource use and look for leaky faucets, ineffective appliances, and put in maintenance requests to get those fixed as soon as possible.
Great, really creative strategy on that
Yeah.
one. So another category we have is transportation. And a good example comes from John Sanford International School in Seattle. They interviewed the school community to learn more about their transportation practices. And with that information, they decided to create a monthly alternative transportation initiative, which included walking, biking, and even scootering to school. So students were rewarded when they chose these alternative routes, and they also helped to create a traffic flow pattern within their school to help minimize congestion. Another idea is related to idling. So the York Elementary School in Vancouver decided to create a no idling policy. So when cars or buses were to come through the campus, they don't sit there with their engines running. They decided to implement this policy, and they also completed this initiative with some monitoring and signage as well. So people who came onto their campus knew what their lasting action was all about. Mm-hmm.
So waste and recycling is one of our most popular certification categories. It's actually a really great fit if you're going through our program for the first time because you can usually see really tangible results in your project. There are also a lot of opportunities whether you want to tackle composting, improving recycling practices, or just minimizing waste on campus. The possibilities are really endless. Here are a few standout examples though. Hillcrest Elementary in Oak Harbor realized that a ton of food waste was being landfill bound every day in their lunchroom. So they created a vermicomposting program on campus, which basically means that lunchroom waste was sent to these huge worm bins that they created, which was then turned into nutrient-rich soil, which they then used for their on-campus food garden. They also created a system to send unopened food to the local food bank, and they were averaging 250 milk containers per week that was heading to the food bank. They're also working with the district to phase out single-use styrofoam cafeteria trays and are partnering with the local Navy base to send a compostable tray alternative to the base's composting site where they can manage composting a high volume of trays every day. So that's a really great example of community members working together to help reduce impact at school, and also just teaching kids about, being more wise about what food they're eating, thinking twice before they pick up food that they're not actually going to consume, and also using uneaten food to support community members in need. And then we had Chelan Middle and High School in Chelan. That's a shared campus. And they kicked off a composting and recycling initiative to address a huge waste problem at their school. So many different members of the community worked together. These kids partnered with local farmers to use recycled apple bins to create composting bins. They had student monitors in the lunchroom, making sure that kids and parents knew and teachers knew what waste goes where. And thanks to their efforts, they cut their cafeteria's landfill-bound trash by 60%, and now 90% of uneaten food is being distributed to kids in need. So that's a huge improvement in a really short amount of time. And then Franklin Pierce High School in Tacoma, they set a goal of cutting their garbage pickups by 50%, and they focused on doing that by upping their paper recycling. They realized that there just wasn't a recycling system in place for people to send computer paper or even cardboard and other paper goods into the recycling bins. So it was really just ending up in the trash can most of the time. So using daily announcements, lunchtime monitoring, and larger, more prominent recycling centers, the student body is monitoring how families and students can reduce waste to save money.
Great. Well, healthy school buildings is our fifth category, and this one I think is quite innovative, the examples that we found. So the island school on Bainbridge Island had students who wanted to improve their school sanitation and community health in general. So they formalized an indoor air quality and purchasing policy to make sure that sustainability became a community priority for their school. So now their school remains a safe and healthy place for years to come due to that initiative. Heritage High School in Vancouver, Washington, started swabbing and culturing various surfaces around their school to determine if there was any bacterial growth occurring. And it turns out that their school classroom tables and desks were actually magnets for germs. No surprise there, I guess. So they tested 2 environmentally friendly types of cleaners and different types of solutions, and decided to make these cleaners available for all students in their classrooms based on their findings for which one was the most effective. And then they shared their results and their tips to improve school sanitation to the entire student body as well as the staff.
Great. So we'll finish off with energy. Again, energy is one that just has so many options, especially based on your school building. If you have solar panels, there's a huge opportunity for education there. If you live and teach in an older school building, you can work on reducing, the amount that computer monitors are on overnight. So really, you can work with your facility to find a project that makes the most sense with what you have. Le Centre High School down in Le Centre discovered that most students and staff weren't really aware of the solar panels that had been installed on campus, and they just realized that people didn't really know how this was making a difference in their energy consumption or even how the panels worked and what behaviors the school community needed to take to make the solar panels matter. And so they created an educational campaign by collecting data to see how the panels are reducing their school's carbon footprint. They built a web page to share information on solar energy, and they even created classroom activities for students to do so they could learn about where their school's energy comes from. And then Henry Jackson High School up in Everett conducted an audit and found that energy vampires, which are appliances that aren't often in use or electronics that stay on 24/7, were contributing to much of their school's energy use. So they implemented a lights off program on campus to make sure that the lights were turned off whenever classrooms weren't in use. And they had monitors going around to leave friendly reminders if they saw that there were lights being left on. And then they also went to the district to ask for motion detectors and automatic switch-off devices, as well as to explore policy options that could remove excess or unsustainable electronics from the rooms. So it was a really good way for kids to work with what they had and help students and staff realize what small actions, as small as turning off a light switch, they could take to reduce their energy consumption. But also they thought big picture by working with the district to see how moving forward they could implement strategies and policies to make their school a more energy efficient place.
Yeah. So many success stories to work off of.
Tons.
And we have more on our website as well at walgreenschools.org. So if you would like to explore some more ideas, we have a tab just on those success stories as well.
And again, if you have any questions or are looking for more specific examples or feel like you're having trouble finding a lasting change or action project that's a good fit for your school, just send us an email, give us a call, and we're happy to provide some more examples that are tailored to your school and what could work for you guys. Again, the program's really dynamic, so the whole point of it is to create a lasting change that makes the most sense for your school. So the possibilities are endless.
We look forward to your ideas.
Great.